Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Destination Truth. Today I'm doing one outside for fun, though it's kind of noisy because this is San Francisco. This video, there's 1,000 different things that I could make videos on right now, but today I felt like I should make a video once again about masculinity. Just because society is falling apart, ripping at the seams, and degenerating into something truly disgusting and unrecognizable from a perspective of what nature is. And I've said this before and I'll say it again, you know, communism, feminism, anything having to do with leftist ideology at this point in time, they are inherently, one thing they all have in common for sure is inherently that they are anti-nature. They are anti-reality. Just look at SJW videos. You'll see people literally getting enraged and walking out of conservative or right-leaning talks where people are just talking about very basic things just to try to get people on the same page. And they're just trying to get people to meet in the middle, right? And talk about reality, things that aren't offensive, that, you know, maybe you don't like it, but, you know, things like, you know, men are inherently going to have more muscle mass. Men are going to be inherently usually taller than women. Women, you know, have to deal with gestation and menstruation if they get pregnant, and also getting pregnant. All these things that men don't have to deal with. Those are things that these two sexes, because of biology and science and things you can't actually change unless you want to literally recreate humanity through science, which is terrifying, which honestly, I honestly think at this point, if it was possible, the SJW types would do that. They would say it's for the best. Isn't that disgusting? Because they don't believe in God or anything. They believe that biology and nature itself is flawed, and so they will destroy nature. They're playing God. They're willing to do that. It's such an arrogant perspective that it's kind of disgusting. But anyways, this particular video I want to make is some thoughts I have about battling feminism as a male. And it is coming from a male who's basically off the market now. This might be news to some people who won't see this video, hopefully, but I'm about to get engaged. Yeah, and so I'll basically be off the market. But as a male, I definitely had a lot of experiences living in the most of my adulthood in the inner city here in San Francisco. And how do you deal? Because I see a lot of these men becoming cucks or cuckolds, or white knights, SJWs, and they're doing it for, whether they believe it cognitively or not, they're doing it for the same reason that men join the military or want to have a good job, want to have a nice car, want to have a big house, want to be rich. All of these things, men, if you're sane, you'll agree that one of the biggest drives all men have is pussy. Alright, Sigmund Freud came up with this, and if you disagree with him, most psychologists agree with this as well, by the way. I mean, motivation of man and masculinity is based, in fact, in getting the most high market value woman. That would be the most genetically pure or genetically strong, you know, fit woman that has the right curves, you know, breasts and that are a good size, and no physical or autoimmune or diseases of any kind. You know, people that aren't crippled. You know, so basically, that's the root core of what motivates most men to do most things in life. Now, when these women are basically becoming feminists and trying to take place of men, it's actually it's ruining some men. because there's too much competition for high-paying jobs now, because women are competing too. And so some men are opting out. And this is the whole Gitmo, men going their own way movement. And some of my good friends, I've got a pretty good perspective on this, because some of my best friends have been doing this from a young age, and it's largely based on nihilism, because their parents divorced, and it's because of a shitty reason, like they themselves walked in on their mom cheating on, their dad with their best friend's parents, for example. That's just one example, but that's a real example. That creates a lot of nihilism in our society. Like, what's the point? Why work so damn hard to get that job, that car, that house, that wife, that family? Because chances are, once you have all those things, that woman's going to say, I'm not satisfied still, and move on. Like, that kind of perspective, you have to understand, that destroys a man's drive to do good in life. Like, why not sit in your parents' basement, chronically masturbating, playing games all day, hardly holding a job, if at all, and the only reason you would is because your parents are making you pay rent or something? Like, what's the point? You'd have a lot of fun. Like, games are fun. Women don't even understand that still. I think the majority of women don't play games for a number of reasons. One, they're hyper competitive. Masculinity drives that. That's why women will never make a huge... I don't think women, no matter what, will ever make up more than 25% of the gamers in the world. Just because the internet has become the one safe place. A safe place for men to be men. And when people say you're being toxic, calling that toxic masculinity, for example, no, you're full of shit. That's just masculinity. Masculinity is, at its core, disagreeableness. I mean, we know this from the big 5 traits, personality traits. Disagreeableness, or agreeability, men and women, by and large, are totally different. I mean, their bell curves are like polar opposites from each other. Men are much more disagreeable. That's why they're more willing to argue for a higher raise, for example, and women are much more agreeable. And so nowadays, leftists are trying to teach women to be more disagreeable. They're trying to teach them that by teaching them how to argue for a higher raise, make them less attractive. By and large, this is an important note, I think, is by and large, it's women that are already unattractive that go for these ideologies. Just look at how women have become almost polar opposites these days. There's women that are attractive, they're doing the same things they've been doing for a long time. Like thousands of women out there are trying to get a career based on fitness on Instagram. Okay? They're just becoming fitness models and getting a bunch of followers on Instagram, and then trying to get basically sponsored by some random fitness company or something, and maybe get famous doing commercials or this or that. But I mean, it's a pretty simple formula that women are following right now. It's like, if you're attractive, you're gonna up your sexual market value like none other if you get popular on Instagram, and by doing so, like, you get to basically act as if you are semi-famous. You don't have to go for anyone that has an income lower than what you want, because there's a lot of men out there that know you exist. So there's a good chance that there's a man out there that has, maybe a 7-figure income that might be interested in you. Who knows? Just saying. But the nihilism of why should a man work so damn hard in life to get something that is very likely to just poof, gone. And the worst part is, not to mention, in that divorce that will someday happen, most likely. At this point, I think the divorce rate is like still around 49 or 51%. I forget. It's not really important. If it's that high, it's too high. It's way too high. I mean, at the very least, we know that children do way better in life if they're raised by 2 parents up to the age of like 16 or something. Like, after that age, people start maturing enough that they understand some things. So, I mean, if nothing's going to change, I think basically a marriage and having children should at some point become some kind of a contract. Now, I'm not actually saying that there should be a contract, but, you know, social rules should kind of regulate that parents should stay together until their kids are basically grown. And if you don't, you're extremely selfish. So earlier I mentioned this is what women that are attractive are doing, right? And then the women that aren't attractive are literally going after law and trying to control the rules of the nation and nations around the world, and trying to force legislation to basically give them, unattractive women, power over men, so that they basically can become men. In my opinion, women that are naturally drawn towards this should do it, obviously. But to basically force people to start hiring women because they don't want to get a lawsuit for having more men than women or something. I mean, this is what it seems like Google is trying to avoid. They're hiring people right now, quite literally, based on gender and race just as much as they are on qualifications. And I'm sure that there is quite a few people there that are underqualified compared to some of their peers, but they fit a certain criteria that the company wants to have. You know, like they gotta have their representatives that are their token American Indians, their token African Americans, their token whatevers. It doesn't really matter, but anyways, it disgusts me that the unattractive women in society, for one, make themselves more unattractive by piercing themselves in weird ways, getting lots of tattoos. If they wanted to be more attractive, I'm not against. You might as well just get breast implants and, you know, I don't know, a makeover. I find it very surprising how attractive an unattractive woman can be if she tries to be. I'm not going to get into that now. After talking about all this, though, I want to start talking about men and how men can take their power back. This is what the whole video is supposed to be about, and I got on a tangent there. I apologize, but men can definitely fight back against rampant feminism by doing a number of things. But for starters, realizing that women don't know what they want, and women, when they have what they want, will not be happy. So in other words, I am saying don't listen to women, because what they'll tell you is one thing and what they really want is another. For example, all these SJW types, these cuckolds, these weak men, beta males that become white knights, that try to become that perfect male so that they can get to their goal. Once they do all these things, they change themselves, they brainwash themselves to be what they think women want. Once they do all that, women aren't attracted to them because they look weak, they act weak, they are weak. They're pathetic. Women don't want you like that. Women actually are attracted to strong men. Assholes sometimes. Ask yourself why the good guy finishes last. It's because good guys don't get what they want. Good guys aren't disagreeable enough to go to their boss or whoever and say, hey, I think I am worth this, or I think, you know, doing these new duties that you've given me, I think I need a title change. I think I'm overqualified for this, or I'm doing this really well. You know, I think I deserve a raise. You know, those things are hard. I'll be honest and say I have asked for a raise probably twice in the last 6 months and got neither of them. And guess what I did? I quit my job. Yes, and I'm happy about it. I'm in a job transition right now, which is why I have been making less videos, because I'm extremely busy. I'm effectively working for 2 companies almost. But yeah, it's intense. But okay, so number 1 thing, don't listen to women. Number 2, be yourself. Individualism is a beautiful thing. Collectivism is disgusting, and it breeds beta males and cuckolds, And women, the alpha women, the women at the top of the food chain that are hot, they don't want that. They don't. There's a reason why a lot of women actually are attracted to a man in a uniform, and that's because they're attracted to male masculinity, which basically equates to power and disagreeableness, and someone who they know without even knowing for real, but on a biological level, their DNA is telling them that guy is powerful. He has what it takes to get resources in this life. If I marry him, he will take care of me and our children. Okay, so be an individual. It wouldn't be a bad thing to I'm not recommending being a cop, by the way. Cops have the highest divorce rates because their job is extremely stressful. But just be yourself. And I'm not saying join the military necessarily, because the military is, I hate to say it, I love the troops and I support the troops, but most of those people are pawns to be played with globalist elites. So, I mean, Henry Kissinger literally said that once, so I'm absolutely correct when I say that. It's not up for debate, really. Okay, so next, the third thing, those are the first two things. The third thing is, if you find yourself in a rut, if you find yourself lacking something to be an alpha male, try something new, do something new, change it up, change the game, get a motorcycle, start mountaineering, start running, start doing things that are adventurous, because women are attracted to adventure as well. So some things that I do that I'll tell you, yes, I went through a phase for about 9 months I owned a motorcycle, but outside of that, I'm also a rock climber and a mountaineer, and I'm not pro at either of those things. I do them entirely recreationally. I don't even do big walls. Big walls are like multi-pitch, really tall climbs that are over 200 feet. Those are big walls. I only do recreational stuff. I've done sport climbing, trad climbing I've tried, but I don't do big walls. So it's entirely recreational for me. But those are two things, plus the motorcycle thing maybe, but those are things that tell women, because if you've done those things, you're going to have experience with it, and you're going to be passionate about it, and you're going to like it, and you're going to talk to your male friends. That's another thing that I haven't gotten to. That's a fourth thing I'm going to talk about. You're going to talk to other people about these things that you do, and women are, if they hear about this, they're going to be like, wow, this guy's a freaking, adventurous guy. He is not fearful. He's brave. That's a way of demonstrating sexual market value as a man. This nihilism, these men that have gone their own way, they're opting out of life. They're not just opting out of having a family life and getting married and such. They're opting out of life itself, because most of these people that I know, I personally know some of these people, they don't do shit. They don't go rock climbing, they don't go running, they're lazy as fuck, and they have the DNA to stay skinny, or they get fat, meaning most of them get fat or overweight. Alright, so do something adventurous. And in the Bay Area, for example, there's this company called Events and Adventures. I haven't used their services, unfortunately, or fortunately. Maybe I saved a lot of money. I don't know. But they do a lot of cool things, it sounds like. They do tons of events every month, and you get a bunch of singles doing fun events that are adventurous together. And you can, if you're a man, you're more likely to be adventurous inherently, just because of your freaking literal testosterone in your body will make you a little bit, on average, more adventurous and willing to try new things and take risks than women. So if you go do these things, you're gonna be that guy that's being like, you can do it, because I just did it. I just climbed up a 80-foot ladder and jumped off of it into a lake or something crazy like that. I don't know, I'm just making up random excuses or examples, but that is something, if you want to win in life, I do promote you do that. Fourth thing that I was just talking about is maintain strong male relationships. You need to have friends, because if you're going to go out trying to find random women in a club or a bar or something, which is not the best way to do it, by the way. The best way to actually find women is, in fact, through school and work, even though feminists are trying to kill that. They're trying to say that's inappropriate. You're not supposed to, meet women in the workplace. School, I don't think they're against school, like classmates, but, you know, they don't like any kind of dynamic relationship of men and women in the workplace because there's a power dynamic there that makes things pretty ugly sometimes, if things go wrong, obviously. From my experience, I have dated some coworkers before, and if you're on the same level, like the exact same level, things are okay. Even if they fall apart, things are okay. You're just going to avoid each other. It's going to be awkward, but eventually one of you will probably leave the company anyway. If there's a power dynamic there, whoever is in the lower position, unfortunately, they run a huge risk, because if things go poorly, they realize they're more likely to have to leave the company than the person of the higher authority, because the higher authority position, I mean, that's a position you wouldn't want to leave necessarily. So unless you do something wrong, like at the workplace, you know, harass them or something, you know, as long as you play your cards right and you don't be a weirdo or a creep, you'll be all right. Funny story. I'm going to share a funny story just for fun. I worked at an airport for 2 years, SFO to be exact. I'm not going to say the airlines, just, but yeah. And I was stalked by a female, an unattractive female. And I shared it to my coworkers, and I, at the moment, had seniority because I'd been there longer, and I had a small promotion that didn't have any financial. It had no financial incentives in the sense that we're probably paid identically, but I did have a higher position because I'd been there longer and I had more duties, basically. And so when I started getting stalked and I got weirded out or creeped out, told my coworkers, and that person ended up quitting quickly because everyone was making fun of her, probably. I don't know. I started avoiding her. I had to avoid her because she was stalking me in an airport while we were supposed to be working. Super weird situation. Fun story, though. Maybe I'll go into the details sometime. Oh, yeah. All right. Fifth thing. Work out, guys. A scrawny man or a fat man, you are literally like a tenth as likely to get hit up by a high market value female compared to anyone else. Just because obviously you don't care about your body. So if you have the time, if you have the money, it doesn't cost very much money. Like, get a pair of shoes and start running. Running alone, I can't even go into the science of it. I haven't been into the science of fitness for a while here, but I do know from personal experience, used to do a lot of sports, and just from objective reality, that if you're in good shape and take care of your body, that's a huge plus, okay? Just look, if you go to a club, any club in a big city, you're gonna find a lot of really hot chicks dating really buff guys that probably have very low income. Literally, these guys spend a lot of their money working out and doing like weird work, but they'll do it because they love the fitness part. Again, this ties hand in hand with the power of masculinity and women being attracted to the power part, and men who look like they're able to get resources. So, another thing, sixth thing, if you're literally going out and seeking women, it's literally almost not worth, it's probably not worth your time to fly alone. Now, when I used to go clubbing, I will say that I never flew alone. But when I was on the prowl, I would have looked alone, because I would basically walk through the entire place 2-3 times looking at every single female that I found attractive, and basically prioritize them, because I realized time is of the essence at all times. And so you have to be like, all right, well, I'm going to go to number one target and see what I can do before they leave, because at some point everyone's going to leave, you know. So don't just dilly-dally, don't stare. What I literally do, I would get a drink, I would walk around and, you know, enjoy the music. And if my friends were already in an area that had a large amount of attractive females, I would just chill with my friends and talk and drink. And, you know, at some point, maybe if it's a good enough club, you don't dance with your male friends. That's pretty much weird. But I have done that, just for the record. But it wasn't my friends, actually. It was actually random strangers. But maybe this is just a skill I have. I don't know, but I can make friends with strangers almost better than I can make good friends with a friend, if that makes sense. So getting a friendship started, easy for me. Getting a strong friendship, that's hard. That takes a lot of time and trust, and that takes commitment. So maintain those strong male relationships and do not fly alone, because this is the other point I wanted to make about flying alone is don't fly alone. Always look like you're in a group of friends or something, because on a biological level, now I can't prove this, but I've heard this from a bunch of philosophers and pickup artists and just people I know here in the city. Flying alone is extremely unattractive because it makes you look desperate for a start. For two, it makes you look like a potential risk, like maybe you have a mental illness, thus you go clubbing by yourself. Because I mean, watch the movie Into the Wild and you'll understand that happiness basically is not real unless it is shared. It's a great book, but the movie will do, in my opinion. But yeah, so that's just a little bit of philosophy behind the belief that basically people that go and do certain things alone might have a screw loose, like literally. And so, you know, women may not be able to put a finger on why they're not attracted to loners, but if they're approached by a complete loner, it doesn't look as good as if there's a group of friends talking and you're walking by and one of them asks you a question or something like that. I'm not trying to be a pickup artist here. There's a bunch of really great pickup artists out there, and there's a lot of actually good female pickup artists out there that'll help males with how to introduce yourself, because that is obviously the hardest thing. Most men and women, believe it or not, always remember women are deathly afraid of having to do anything themselves because they lack testosterone, and thus society has made it so easy for them to do nothing because everything's done for them by males. Okay, I'm back. So I just finished with the fifth thing, which is don't be a loner. But that's basically all 5 things for helping you find a good mate, right? Like getting out there and actually finding them. On another note, I want to add some other things about just taking power back from women. And, you know, feminism has in fact been taking a lot of power from men by, you know, competing with them for high-paying jobs more now than ever, as well as trying to use the state to take more power as well. So, you know, we've already established a ridiculous system for divorce where a woman who has never had a job other than being a nanny or a dog walker can get millions of dollars if her husband is a millionaire, and she will be paid that almost in perpetuity forever. Certain states will allow that. Like, it'll be for the rest of their life until they remarry, if they remarry. So the only chances of stopping that as a male, I believe, are becoming homeless and destitute and bankrupt, which is something that happened to a very close relative of mine after a divorce. And he is, in fact, homeless and destitute. Which is really, really sad. I cannot express enough about that. The divorce system is ridiculous. Or even if the male remarries, he's still paying his ex-wife. Like that, does that not seem insane? Like, at the very least, I think it would do the country some good if they changed it, at least so that there's a time, like a sunset on the alimony to the wife or the ex-spouse, whoever was making more income. Probably 95% of the time, this is women getting paid by men. Maybe north of 95%, honestly, it might be. But, you know, there's a small minority of men who get alimony from their wives because their wives made much more money than them. Cuckolds. So to get power back, for one, I already said one of the first things to do is stop listening. 2, I already said be yourself. The other ones don't apply so much to this, but what I will add is that The other thing I wanted to add was a very simple way that men have been giving up power for a long time that they don't need to give up is simply letting women have too big of a head or being too egotistical based on something that they did not earn, they were born with. And I'm talking about looks. So what I'm trying to say, and I don't know how to word this perfectly, but do not over-compliment your woman or women in general. Do not over-compliment them on looks, and do not lie to make them feel good about themselves unless it is already like your wife. Like, for example, my girlfriend and I are so close that I'm at that point where maybe sometimes she's not looking her best, but I might make a white lie to make sure she knows that I think she looks good, you know, because otherwise she gets really down on herself. But women in general base a lot of their self-value and self-esteem on their looks, which is something that you do not earn, you are born with. Except makeup can really, I mean, makeup can literally change someone's their looks value on a scale 1 to 10. Makeup can literally make a whole numbers difference. You can take a 7 to an 8 or an 8 to a 9. It's really that amazing. Or maybe even a 9 to a 10, you know. Makeup does do that. Anyways, I was just thinking of examples. I'm not going to share any because I don't have any. I'd have to show them to you, but maybe I'll find some and add them right here. Anyways, guys, this video is largely just, you know, men have a lot of power that they're not using, they're forgotten, or they're giving up. Men are giving up by and large, and you don't have to. You really just don't have to. You have to just be yourself and have fun. And do not be like a woman in the sense that you're always trying to, you know, hypergamy is rampant in our society. So don't always think that you can do better. For example, like the current girlfriend I'm with, this is actually, okay, I just came up with this on the fly here, but I'm going to share this, and it might be one of the most important things that I share right now. It might be. I don't know. But you should have a clear definition in your mind of who's good enough for you. Literally, you know, if you've got pictures of high school mates or schoolmates you've had in the past, you've got Facebook friends, people you follow on Instagram or something. If you see certain women and you're like, wow, you know, they're so attractive, so awesome. You know, if I could somehow ever get a girl that attractive, I would be set for life. I would not leave them. I'd be happy. Do that and stick to it. And don't lie to yourself that you can always marry up. Because what happens to men and to women, but mostly women, is they do what I was saying, which is they don't necessarily set goals, but they find someone that they like, and they think that they can get another guy they like, and another guy they like, and eventually they're 30 years old or even older, and they're realizing that they have thrown away great men and ruined those men's lives, and those men will never take them back, ever, and yet they now have nothing to show for it because they've ruined every relationship they're in because they were unsatisfied, which is why something like 80+% of marriages or divorces go through are from women, and the majority, at least over 50% of these marriages end for the reason of being unsatisfied. Yeah, that is brutal, and that really sings real praises to the whole nihilism theory that I and many others have. So, again, guys, just to recap, don't listen to women. Be yourself. Try something new. These are just things to do to get a woman again. Do something new and take chances. Have friends, maintain good friendships. Don't be a soloist. Don't go out solo. And then to take the power back, don't overcompliment women on their looks. If you are in a relationship with a woman who is attractive and you overcompliment them on their looks, they will start thinking that they are better than you. even if you make good money. I'm not kidding. My girlfriend compliments me on my looks too much, and I haven't told her that, but I know it. And because I'm aware of these things, it's really okay either way for me. But like, I'm able to extrapolate that if a woman was complimented as much as I was in her relationship, they might start thinking like, maybe I could do better. So that's a big thing, guys. Don't over compliment. And if you want to get a girl's attention that's, you know, depressed or something, or has low self-esteem at a club, telling them that they're beautiful, hey, it might be a way to open a door. Anyways, guys, there's a lot of information out there from pickup artists and such, but I mostly just want to focus on like helping men keep some power in the universe, because women are going after the state right now, and too many men just, you know, they have jobs, they can't do that, and so we're getting crushed in the courts. Divorce courts are a disaster. And I don't know if in my lifetime we will finally see true equality in that regard ever, because basically men are slaves to their wives until their wives remarry or die. It's a pretty brutal system right now. Anyways, guys, I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoy what I'm saying. If you have any thoughts on what I'm saying, please, 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 this should be a discussion more than anything. Please leave some comments down below. I'll respond to the ones that I think are insightful and not just spreading hate, because I know I'm going to get some hate on this video. I know I do. I know I'm going to, because I get hate on a lot of videos that I think aren't even that hateful. But this is not a hateful video. This is just saying, like, you know, the universe that we live in has been tipping in favor of women for a long time. I'm serious. At least since the 20s, if not the, I don't know, 1890s or something. It goes way back. But you know, it's time to start fighting back, guys. If we don't do it now, when?